Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing, man? Antonelli here.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How we doing? Today, answering your questions. Today's question is on batting practice at the major league level. What is it like? When do you hit? How do you hit? What are the groups like? How many swings do you get? All that stuff. Okay, so I'll try to give you an insight into kind of how batting practice works. Okay, you're going to take batting practice in the major leagues pretty much every day on the field. Um, you're going to take it depending on if you're the home team or the away team. The home team always hits first, and then the away team comes out and hits after them. Typically, batting practice is going to last probably somewhere like 50 minutes or so, 45 minutes maybe. I think somewhere around there. How the groups typically happen is you're going to hit, usually starters are going to hit in the first couple of groups. Usually have like 4 guys per group is typically how many hitters, sometimes maybe 5 guys per group. So 4 or 5 guys. Again, starters are going to go in the first couple groups, and then non-starters are going to go after that. Typically, you're going to get, well, it depends on it depends a little bit, but I'd say most teams are going to get you'll get about 4 rounds, sometimes maybe 5 rounds of BP. You're going to usually get somewhere between like 6 and 8 swings. So I don't know how you guys do it. Depends what level you're at. Every level is a little different. Put in the description box below, actually, what your typical BP looks like and put what level you're at. But in the major leagues, it's typically like shorter swings per round. I've seen some high schools and I've seen travel ball stuff where it's like guys get in, take like 20 swings, and then they're done. It's like 20 swings, and that's my BP. At the major league level and in the minor league level, professional level in general, you're going to take shorter rounds. Excuse me. Got a little cough going on. You're going to take shorter rounds. You typically take like 6 to 8 swings. You're going to get out. The next guy's going to get in. So you don't get overly tired. And then you're just going to work through that like 4 to 5 times usually. So I would say on average, you're going to get like around 30 or so swings during on-field batting practice. Now remember that is not the only time you're hitting. So players have typically, like when you get to the park, you're going to hit in the batting cage first. So you're going to like go down. You're going to get loose off the tee. You're going to get some flips. Usually there's a coach down there who's going to flip to you. There's always typically machines. So you can get some machine work in. So you're going to already do that. On the road, we've talked about this before, I believe. When you play road major league games, there's things called early batting practice, where before the batting practice takes place, you can do early batting practice. So say you get to the field around like a 1 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. You can go on the field early sometimes and take early batting practice. I can't remember the exact time that it started, but it would start really early, around like maybe like 1:30, 2 o'clock. When I was called up my rookie year, it was mandatory for the young guys. Well, I shouldn't say it was mandatory, but it was basically mandatory. It was like, it's not mandatory, but you better be out there. And so we'd go on the field and hit BP, and then come in and then go back out a couple hours later and hit BP with the team. So there's a lot of opportunities to hit. And so that's why during batting practice, you're not going to take 100 swings, because you've already gotten so many swings throughout the day already. All right. So again, you're going to rotate through that. All the guys are going to hit, and then you're going to go in and get ready for the game. What else can we talk about? The BP round. So what happens is, typically it's not just like a get in the BP and just do whatever you want. A lot of times the rounds are every swing you're going to be doing something. Okay, so typically first round you're going to lay down a couple of sacrifice bunts. So you go maybe a couple sacrifice bunts to the third base side, a couple sacrifice bunts to the first base side. And then typically you're going to have some type of situational hitting. So maybe the first couple of swings, a lot of times what happens actually in the first round, it's like a opposite field round. So if you ever go to a major league game and you get there early, you'll see like first round especially, you'll see guys just kind of getting loose. And it's not so much that they're getting loose because they've already hit, but one thing you see a lot is players really are trying to slow the game down. So they're trying to be relaxed as possible. They're trying to let the ball kind of come to them and get deep, as people will say. And they'll really work on just kind of staying over the ball and staying on the ball and just kind of driving the ball to the other way. Now, some guys take that to the extreme, and like their first 6 swings, it looks like they're like sleeping. And like they just hit like ground balls out to the right side. Nice and easy. Some guys will swing a little bit hard and drive it that way. Manny Ramirez, I remember him in batting practice. I got to watch him hit a few times in batting practice. He looked like he was barely trying, like just barely swinging, and the ball would just shoot like rockets, and he's like barely trying. Adrian Gonzalez was another guy like that. He would, almost all of Adrian Gonzalez's rounds in batting practice would be line drives to left field as a lefty. And he'd just kind of be like nice and easy, boom, barely look like he's swinging, and the ball's just blasting off to left center, line shots, right? And like he would just do that for the first 3 rounds. Sometimes he'd do it the whole time. And then every now and then, like the last round, you know, sometimes guys be like, hey, home run derby round. And all of a sudden he'd just be like, whack, and he'd just destroy a ball like 450 feet into the right center field, you know, bleachers. That was actually always one of the things that I thought was really impressive, is for somebody that had that amount of power, that could just, if he wanted to, he could just do home run derby all day long and just probably hit like 30 home runs to right center field in batting practice. But he had the discipline, and he knew what he was trying to do to put himself in position to succeed in the game. And it wasn't just about like showing off, but he said, okay, for me to be successful in the game, I have to be able to drive the ball that way. I want to be able to use the whole field. Like pulling the ball would be really easy, but he had the discipline to stay on the ball and boom, and just hit balls that way. And maybe that doesn't look like the most impressive thing or the coolest thing, but he's working on his game. That's the important part. Like a lot of times batting practice for players is like, okay, let's see how far I can hit this ball. Now you can like have fun and do that sometimes, but in the major leagues especially, a lot of times you'll see guys, like you ever watch Albert Pujols' BP, he doesn't just sit there, and I know now he's a little bit older, but even back in the day, he doesn't just sit there and just try to destroy balls out of the park every time. Like he's really thinking like gap to gap, he's staying on the ball, he's driving the ball in the middle of the field. So that's what a lot of major league guys will do, especially early in the first round. And then as they go later into the rounds, they'll start to pull the ball more. There's also situational hitting stuff. So you might see some guys, you know, first couple might be hit and runs. First couple might be man on second and let's move them over. And then sometimes it's man on third, infield in. Think about getting the ball up and driving it to the outfield. Or it's infield's back and let's hit a hard ball through the middle of the field. So there's all different types of things. Maybe it's a squeeze or a bunt for hit. It's not just get out there and home run derby, okay? Which happens a lot at like lower levels. Guys really, you know, just try to swing as hard as they can. Major league guys typically have a little bit more of a plan, and it's very business-like, okay? So that's kind of how batting practice works. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. I wasn't going to do this, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about some of the most impressive batting practices I've ever seen. I've already talked about Manny Ramirez driving balls that way, and I was like, whoa, like what the hell is that? He looks like he's barely swinging, the ball's taking off. Matt Holliday put on one of the most impressive things. When he was with the Rockies, when I was with the Padres, he was with the Rockies. At Coors Field, he was hitting balls. If you've ever been to Coors Field or seen it on TV, they've got like a ton of stands, and then like way at the back, there's like a brick concession stand. I think it's a concession stand back there. Matt Holliday and BP was hitting balls like over 30 rows of stands and like smashing them up against the back of that concession stand thing, which was like ridiculous. So he was super impressive. He was like a giant of a man. He's obviously still a big guy, but like he was humongous. That was one of the most impressive BPs I ever seen. Who else? Another super impressive BP was Hanley Ramirez when he was with the Marlins. He was hitting balls. Now, we talked about like hitting the ball the other way. I remember watching Hanley Ramirez's BP, and he was not trying to hit the ball the other way. It looked like he was hitting golf balls. Like he literally was up there almost every swing, and he was like Domingo Ayala leg kick, and just hitting balls like out of sight. It looked I was in the dugout and I was watching, and like you couldn't even see the ball. I'm like, where the hell did the ball go? It like disappeared, like at a driving range when the ball's hit like a 350-yard drive and it just disappears. That's what it looked like. And I was like, this is unbelievable. He was another huge dude. But those are two that stick out to me as like ridiculously impressive BPs. But you see that a lot. Talk about Adrian Gonzalez just kind of flicking the ball. Like, you know, those guys are on a different level. That's why they're as good as they are. So that's how batting practice works. Hopefully that helps you guys out. Let me know if you have any more questions, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Share the video with all your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. All that good stuff. Check out the description box below. We've got a bunch of stuff down there. Got a link to our Patreon page if you want to support the channel. That would be awesome. I'd really appreciate that. We've got a deal going on with PlayCrate. You can check that out also. We've got a bunch of other stuff down there. And that's all I got, guys. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later.